Yes, good day to you all. My name is Mr. AUTA Elijah, the course lecturer to part 213, Organizational Conflict and Management. I want to welcome you all to our study session 4, and which has to do with types of conflicts. So this course will has a lot of study outcome. First, at the end of this study session, you student or student, you should be able to enumerate and discuss basic types of conflicts. 2, you should be able to differentiate between functional and dysfunctional types of conflict management. 3, common organizational conflicts in Nigeria. So these are the learning outcomes that students of this course you are expected to know. That these are some of the things you expect to do. You should be able to enumerate and discuss the basic types of conflicts that are there in conflict management. You should be able to differentiate between functional and dysfunctional types of conflict management. And lastly, you should be able to list the common organizational conflicts in Nigeria. So today, to begin proper, we shall be looking at the types of conflicts. It means that conflicts has so many types, but for the sake of this discussion, we shall be looking at some various types of conflicts. So we shall be looking at the types of conflict. So the first type of conflict is goal conflict. Goal conflict arises when an individual selects or is assigned goals that are incompatible with each other. Goal incompatibility refers to the extent to which an individual or group goals are at odds with one another. This simply means that when functions are given to individuals that are not related to the areas of strength, that is the background, the understanding of that person, it becomes a conflict, because at the end of the day, the person will be under pressures to give in the best or to try to meet up with the standard of the organizations. So that's what it means by goal conflicts. It means that the particular objective set aside is not compatible with the person's understanding, with the person's background, or what he or she actually have in place to give when the need arises. And that's what I mean by goal conflicts. Then the second type of conflict is affective conflict. It provokes hostility, distrust, and apathy within individual team members, thereby obstructing open communication and integrations. This kind of conflict, as you all know, it comes when there is hostility, when there is distrust among team members who are working in an organization. And so this kind of conflict is always happening, especially among organizational members who sometimes feel that they are not really compatible to stay together or to work together. And so this kind of conflict always arises in most organization of this type, when team members are beginning to see each other as enemy, or begin to have some unhealthy competitions that are not too healthy enough, thereby affecting their level of communications and their level of interaction. You see colleagues are not discussing with each other, maybe as a result of maybe they feel one is being promoted unfairly and all of that. So those are the things that's to do with affective conflict. Then the next thing is cognitive conflict. The effects of cognitive conflict are many: quality, high productivity, and more creativity. This kind of conflict always arises from the thinking nature of a person. When there is a need for one to be creative enough, you see a person begin to have a discussing himself, begin to fight himself unnecessarily. These are the things that you need to know about the cognitive conflict. Then we have what is called procedural conflict. Procedural conflict exists when group members disagree about the procedure to be followed in accomplish the goal. And that is what it means. Sometimes most employees felt that the rules of the game set aside to guide an operations on a certain assignment, it has to be followed. And in an event whereby some members of the group are not following up all of this, it has a way of affecting the interests of others, and thereby resulting to so many conflicts. So having said that, the next thing we're going to look at is the functional and dysfunctional conflicts. It means that conflicts can be functional and dysfunctional. When conflict is functional, it means it is understood as the creation or resolution of conflict that often leads to constructive problem solving, improving the quality of decisions, stimulating involvement in discussions, and building group cohesion. Functional conflict is a conflict that leads to creating solutions to certain issues, whereby there's always going to be a quality decisions taking. And of course, it has a way of building up what is a strong unity. When there is unity in every organization, in every group of people that are living together, it has a way of enable them to achieve, to have a formidable force and have a very productive end. And so, functional conflict, it has to do with when you create a resolution platform that it will enable the parties that are involved in conflict to be able to understand each other, to be able to take a quality decisions at the end of the day. Then the dysfunctional conflict is an opposite of functional conflict. This is when conflict can be understood as an undesirable experience that is avoided. It has serious negative effect actually. Like I say, it's an opposite of that functional conflict. When it does not lead to any constructive problem solving, rather it creates a lot of chaos and a lot of undesirable ends, when those that are involved in such a conflict will begin to have a very bad experience, when it does not lead to any fruitful end. It does not stimulate them to begin to think positive that yes, we can actually have a better end, we can actually have a good end. So these are some of the things that has to do with dysfunctional conflicts. Now, we have some common organizational conflict in Nigeria. It means that there are certain conflicts that are existed or that happens in organization in Nigeria. One, we have resource allocation conflicts. Resource allocation conflict occur when multiple departments, teams, or individuals compete for limited resources such as time, money, equipment, or personnel. And of course, this always happens. Time is always a problem, especially in an event whereby the time allotted or allocated for a particular operations to be performed, if it is not okay, it's not fair enough, or possibly it's very limited, it has a way of causing conflict, or possibly the time might not be very convenient, because we know that the official time to resume work is 8 a.m. and the closing time is 4 p.m. or a situation whereby a staff is asked to stay back at work other than the time, official time, it has a way of causing conflict. It to cause some disagreement and murmuring and all of that. So those are the things. Then even money can cause conflict actually when the welfare of employees are not properly taken care of. It has a way of causing conflict. They begin to feel that their rights, their what is meant for them are not be given. Sometimes even when money that are meant to cater for the need of the staff or employees of an organization, it has a way of causing conflict. Even the equipment can also cause conflict, of course. Just like we rightly said in our studies to the one session when we talk about the concept of management, and I'll say something that has to do with 40 principles of Henry Fayol. And one of the principles is the principle of order, where Henry Fayol categorically said that order means a place for everything and everything in its place. It means that there are situations where some equipments are not properly kept or assembled in a position that is supposed to be. It has a way of causing conflict. Sometimes it may be blocking the chances for an employee not being flexible enough to work, and all of that, it causes conflict. Even now, the next thing also personnel. Personnel is also a very big problem. Sometimes you see a staff who may be doing well in accounting department or in HR or maybe in marketing and other department, and such employees is changed or transferred. Honestly, all of those things, it can cause conflict. Then we have political conflicts. Political conflicts. Political conflict refers to disagreement or struggle between individuals, groups, organizations over power, authority, or influence. Power, authority, and influence are key issues that draw political conflict, that causes political conflict, especially when the struggle for power, it becomes a very serious issue. You see people, individual, even families begin to have problems with each other. You discover that brother and sister who might be working even in the same organization, but because of the fight for power, everybody want to create relevances for you yourself. It causes conflict. Is it authority? Everyone want to occupy, to be in a position of authority, to give order to order and expect compliance. Some people, they just want to be the called leader, just for the sake of influence, so that when other people are saying and discussing, they will also equally have a lot of things to do. So political conflict causes when there is a struggle for power, authority, and influence, either in organization, even outside organization, as the case may be. Most people they go extra mile to buy their way, to even to say things and do things that they can imagine that is not supposed to be, just to get power, just to be the MD of an organization, just to be the general manager, just to be the president of an organization. So these are the things that causes conflict in an event whereby when the person that is deserved to be the leader is not given, it causes conflicts. Then the next thing we have staff welfare and labor conflicts. These conflicts are often triggered by issues such as unpaid salaries, poor working conditions, and inadequate benefit. This is mostly drawn by like all these Nigeria Labour Congress and other union governments. So all these are some of the things that causes staff welfare. For example, if the salaries of employees are not paid as an when due, it has a way of causing conflicts. No wonder Henry Fayol talked about what is called remuneration, that's wages and salary of staff. That when staff are paid as a when due, that it has a way of sending strong messages to their psychologists to actually pay more attention to do well at the working place. So when unpaid salaries arises, it causes conflict, and when there is poor working conditions, the conditions given up, but some people, some staff, they are not even entitled to leave. Some of them, even what belongs to them, you discover that all of that are not being taken care of. Then inadequate benefits. There are so many benefits that are supposed to be attached to some employees, and when those things are not given, it has a way of trigger them to fight. It causes conflicts. So conflict is not only caused by when by religious or maybe political reason. Even when your welfare is not properly taken care of, it has a way of causing conflict, you know. Then we have policy implementation conflicts. Disagreement and conflicts can emerge when policies and reforms are introduced within public organization. Now, the truth remains that policies and reforms are very important because it has a way of changing the narrative, it has a way of adding value to organization. But in an event whereby when a policy is taken without consideration, without informing those that are involved, you wake up one day and you hear that, for example, like the case of fuel subsidy that we're talking about, many people least expect that such thing as economic policy will happen. And when it happen, we have what is called national protests all over the country. And such event can cause conflict. So in an event whereby the managing director of an organization or maybe the president of an organization just wake up one day and introduce a policy that does not really capture the interest of all members of the organization, it will cause conflict. Some will begin to disagree and agree, and before you know, they begin to send very bad signals and bad informations, and before you could know, crisis and all of that begin to happen. So these are some of the common organizational conflicts that we see in Nigeria. Like I say, resource allocation and cause conflicts, political conflicts, staff welfare and labor conflicts, policy implementations and conflict when some policies that are set up are designed and not in line with the intent of the members of the organization. It has a way of causing conflicts. Then the next thing we have also another common organizational conflict in Nigeria. We have administrative and leadership conflict. This is also very, very sensitive. This conflict might arise from differences in leadership style, decision-making process, or mismanagement. These are some of the key problems that affect our public organization in Nigeria. Mismanagement of resources, when resources that are meant for issues that will address the general interest of the people are not properly channeled and managed. It causes conflicts, you know, and there's some decisions, some leaders, they take some decisions that are very unhealthy. They don't put people in consideration. It doesn't concern them, it doesn't bother them. When some decisions that are taken that are very haphazard, in fact, that does not really consider the people who are involved directly, you know, it can cause conflicts. Is it leadership staff? You know, some leaders that are so autocratic, that are not considerate, they don't see employees as partners in progress, but they see employees as enemy in progress. You know, such kind of leadership can cause conflict, because in an event whereby a leader that is so autocratic, each time he enter an organization, it has a way of affecting the psychology of the employee. Why? Because they will feel that this wicked man has come again. What will he tell us? Everything after he takes everything to himself. We don't know how much salary, we don't know how much benefit, we don't know what is really even happening. We are just working. You know, these are some of the things that, you know, you cause conflicts. Then we have interdepartmental conflict. This is also very strong. When we have beef from various departments, various units in an organization, having conflict as a result of goals, as a result of priority, as a result of operational process. You know, goals conflict is one of the very dangerous conflict. Like we said earlier on, under the types of conflicts. You know, goal conflicts, especially when the goals of an individual, ordinarily, you know, like in one of the principles of management, which is the principles of one subjecting his individual interest to that of organization. It means that even whatever you have, the organizational interest supersedes your own interest. But there are some employees who might not be in tune, might not be, you know, in consonance with the goals of an organization, or maybe a particular goals of a department may not really suit into their interests. It has a way of affecting them, and before you know, you need to cause this conflict because they are not compatible. They are not looking at one direction. It's expected that just like one of the functions of management, which is the functions of directing, it means that all efforts, strengths, and energy should be channeled towards one direction in arriving at a particular, a very common objective. But in an event whereby various departments seems to begin to look differently based on the rules and the goals of an organization, you know, it has a way of affecting conflict and organizational interest. So priority, you know, priority is very important. when some departments maybe probably are giving more treatment than others, or maybe, maybe some organization, maybe in terms of budget implementations or approval and so many things, maybe it could be promotions. So these are priorities that some organizations they have, and when it's not properly handled, it will cause conflicts. Then even how operations being conducted in most organizations, there are processes to it, but you have situation whereby some organization maybe they begin to boycott such kind of processes and begin to implement things without following due process. It can cause conflict, even in the families, even in our closets, in our various engagement with, if there is a rules of engagement and it's not being followed, it causes conflict. So these are some of the organizational conflicts that we have in Nigeria. Thank you and see you in our next class.